here with Gavin Lawrence, a cast member from Master Herald and the Boys, which is coming to the Wharton Center Friday, January 30th, and Saturday, January 31st. Two special shows, 7:30 p.m. at the Croissant Theater. Tickets are $30. Go to thewhartoncenter.com, find out the information, or call 1-800-4. Gavin, we were just taking a break here, but you were on this tangent and this role that was, I think, so powerful. And I think what you're speaking about has a lot to do with my question for you now. One of the things I hear from Oprah Winfrey is that the movement is out there and people are marching, but there's a lack of leadership.
Yes, there is a lack of leadership.
What do you think about that?
Well, it is one of the sad side effects, I think, of where we are in our country's evolution. What I mean by that is that there is this misnomer that race is not as an important issue as maybe it had been in the 60s when the Civil Rights Act was passed, which is not true. And I think and I don't necessarily know that it's going to happen for my generation. I think some young person, the difficult thing is with our younger generation is for some of them, I talk to my kids and for some of their friends, they say they don't think of race. They say it's not an issue in their lives. Yet I worry about my son when he drives his car down the street, he's still seen as an African-American man. And despite this issue of Minnesota nice, that's not always the case. So I don't know where that leadership is going to come from. You know, I don't think when MLK was doing what he did, that was necessarily something that he planned. I just played him in the mountaintop. And he certainly was not a willing participant in wanting to be a leader. He wanted to have his little congregation and do his thing, but he was kind of cast in that role, and then he took it on, which was the courage of that man, because he was a human being with fears and issues like everybody else, but in spite of that, he was able to represent, become the voice of our movement. I don't know, man. I don't know where that voice is going to
I wish we had all the answers. That would be good.
Yeah, I wish I had. I wish I could see into a crystal ball with that one.
Well, Gavin, you've been doing this a while. You've been part of Steppenwolf in Chicago. You've lived all over the United States. Spent a lot of time in Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that you get to come down and deliver this art.
Yes.
With a historical value.
Yes.
How does that affect your children and your generations of family members? How are they influenced by this?
Well, my children certainly, I think, are more aware and knowledgeable than, say, the average 16 and 17-year-old. And that's because, not just because of my art, but because from the minute they could read or start to try to read, they were learning about our history. My son taught my daughter how to read. And we were talking about books that had to do with African-American life and civil rights movement and that kind of stuff. So they're aware of it. They're aware of it so much that sometimes they say, okay, Dad, we're going to miss this one because we know what that one's about. We read it, and we have, I have speech class to go to or whatever. But I would hope that they are able to look at the work that I try to do and the things that I try to say with my work and be empowered to follow their individual voices with a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of responsibility to not just our people as people of color, but to all people in this country. Because again, that's the thing. That's the whole equation here. It's that on one side we can be this amazing nation, but unless we actually embrace those things that make us amazing, we're never going to be.
I agree wholeheartedly. Again, I love our guest today, Gavin Lawrence. He is just speaking from the soul and the truth of living this reality that we exist in 2015. Still talking about race issues that will be around, I'm sure, beyond our grandchildren's days, unfortunately. I do see that our generations will blend more. I do see that the melting of racial identity will become a little more mixed up.
I agree.
And therefore identifying each other as Americans and not specifically from where that continent of heritage is, because that list will become long to say.
Amen.
But I think, again, Master Herald and the Boys comes at a pivotal time in our history where we are seeing the first African-American president leave office in another year. We see that this journey that we're on is not over. And that the moment that you get the opportunity to hear the words of a South African white man tell about the injustice that was really, really happening as a part of our history, it's something to this.
You know, art, I think, is the key. I really do feel art is the one thing that we have that can give people a direct line to humanity where we can bypass all this other stuff. And the beautiful thing about Fugard is that he took an incident in his life, an ugly incident that he instigated, and it affected him so deeply as a human being that he still, he's in his 80s now, hasn't gotten over it. And it prompted him. Someone asked him in an interview, why did he write this way? How was he able to? And he said, I'm not a strong man. I'm not a brave man. He said, I'm a weak man. But there was nothing else I could do with what had happened. I wouldn't have been able to live had I not done something with that incident, because it was tearing me up inside. And I would hope that we, as people, just in general, could be that honest with ourselves about the things that we create that cause others pain, and come to terms with it. You know, ask for some forgiveness. Let's move forward, because let's see. I'm not getting any 40 acres and a mule. You know? You're not either, right? That's not happening. Real estate is too expensive.
Exactly.
Right?
Those days are
But
over.
we can move forward, and we have to move forward collectively. So I think this piece.
Gavin Lawrence, thank you so much
And
for
my
being a
pleasure.
part of Showbiz
Absolutely.
Weekly. I look forward to seing this show when you're in town.
Yes, yes.
All right,
Take
we'll
care.
be back with more right after this.